I want to talk about the things that we really want and why we believe we can't have them. Now, let's be clear, I'm not talking about a new car or the next big thing in technology. What I'm referring to are those things that we long for on a deeper level, our heart's desires, our soul's longing. So we can desire great things and believe that we deserve to receive those things and that our having them is possible without ever detracting from anybody else. Our receiving that which we want does not mean that somebody else has to go without. As many people have been tricked into believing that in order for someone to get what they want, somebody else must be left in a state of lack. But we live in an infinite universe. So how does that make any sense? It only makes sense if you look at the world that we've all been brought up in. Look at the world around you. At a glance, this is precisely how it seems to operate. But it doesn't have to. We have been indoctrinated into a state of fear, competition, and lack. And it is the collective energy of so many people living in that state, so many people unquestioningly believing that this is somehow the natural order of things that perpetuates that reality. It's like hundreds of millions of people, prisoners, unaware that they are the ones doing the work to maintain the prison that keeps them contained, unaware even that they are prisoners. When the truth is that that reality is entirely by design, and the truth of who we really are, if we were to peel away those veils of indoctrination, the truth is that we are abundance, we are love, we are connected. The truth is that a win for one can be felt and experienced and celebrated as a win for all, where you honoring and pursuing your truth uplifts and benefits the collective as a whole. That is the real truth of what we are, and a reality that we can live in. But the current narrative of lack and competition has been woven into every organ of our society in order to keep us disconnected and in a state of competition and fear. Fear is the lowest of all vibrations, and keeping us there keeps us easily controlled. That is what it has been all about for the architects of this false matrix, to engineer a reality of disempowerment so that the people who populate it are easily manipulated. As the false matrix is beginning to crumble, however, and more people are starting to wake up like never before, we will begin to experience the truth of what we really are, and that is infinitely abundant beings with direct and deep connection to the universe. The truth is that you, following your heart's calling, does not in any way detract from anybody else. In fact, it is the pure and true way of serving others. And that's another part of the lie that has kept us so complacent. Many of us have spent our lives believing that in order to be of service to others, people must forsake themselves. We have been wrongly taught that selflessness is an act of denying oneself, and that self-centeredness is greedy and sinful. We have been led away from our center by design through the wielding of guilt and judgment. When the reality is, service to others begins with honoring the self. And because we are all connected, when the individual raises their vibration, that change of frequency has a direct effect on the whole, it is reflected in the world around them. Everyone has gifts, and those gifts are in us to share. It is only through honoring the truth of who we are and allowing those gifts to be expressed and flow into the world around us that we are of true service to others. And when we do this, we tap into an inexhaustible spring of energy because our actions and inspiration are coming through us, not from us. When we follow the guidance of our heart, our actions are not ours. They are a synergistic co-creation of us, a fractal of the universe, and of the universe as a whole. When you do what you think you have to do or should do at the cost of what you truly want to do, that action is no longer springing forth from your divinity and from your connection with the universe. It is coming from a disconnected, watered down version of yourself. And so the energy that it takes to get it out into the world will eventually run out because it's not coming through you anymore. You're taking it from yourself. Can you feel the difference there? There's no receiving happening. It's a lot of effort. So let's talk about the word should for a moment and why we should all eliminate it from our vocabulary. Any attempt at service that involves the denial of your truth will never succeed. It may outwardly appear to for a time, but it's what's happening inside that is most important. And when you continually say yes to your no's and no's to your yeses, it's like a slow death in your body, a slow dampening of the fire that lives within you. Shoulding ourselves or others is a not so subtle form of judgment. And judgment is always coming from a place of fear. Always. We judge to protect ourselves from feeling the pain that we are unconsciously holding in our bodies. It's that simple. So when we tell ourselves, I should do this, what we're really saying to ourselves is, I need to do this so that I don't disappoint this person, or so that I gain the approval of these people, or so that I make things easier for my family, or so that maybe years from now I'll be able to get that job that somebody else told me I should want. You get the point? The word should actually is directly linked to the concept of guilt if you trace it back to its Germanic roots. So saying to someone, you should do this, is somewhat subtly like saying, if you don't do this, then I will judge you as guilty. Can you feel how similar the energy is? When we should ourselves or anybody else, we are allowing our lives to be governed by fear. And this is entirely different from allowing your fear to guide you into healing. This is handing over the controls entirely. And we generally do so unconsciously. Because for a lot of us, judgment was like breathing air in the world we grew up in. So subtle, so pervasive that it was unrecognizable. We knew nothing different, so we assumed that it was normal. It's kind of like the story of the fish that has no idea it lives in water. What's water? Judgment? What judgment? For me, judgment colored almost every facet of my life. I was brought up Catholic in a tiny farming and fishing community where everybody knew everybody and gossip reigned supreme. Judgment was so deeply rooted into my being that it took me well into my 20s and many forays, both outwardly and inwardly, deep into the unknown, before I even began to realize it was so. Then came the grieving, then the freedom, then the impetus to review my life through a new and improved lens. One with a lot less judgment and a lot more acceptance. Instead of feeling anger and resentment towards people and circumstances in my past, I could see more clearly why I had attracted those things into my life and the opportunity for growth that they presented to me at that time. And so I opened up this space within where I could accept and learn from them what I wasn't able to accept and learn from them at the time that they actually occurred. That is empowerment. Because whatever way you spin it, judgment is always coming from a place of fear. It is an unconscious projection out into the world in an effort to protect ourselves from feeling our pain. So let's tie it all together. We are infinitely abundant beings. One person's success is not predicated on the loss or failure of another. Honoring our truth and our heart's desire is the path to service of others. The word should is always linked to guilt and judgment. Replace it rather with I want to, I'd like to, I'm willing to. And if you can't replace it with one of those options and still feel genuine about the statement you just made, then it's a no. Which leads us to our next point. Say no to your no's and yes to your yeses. Within a genuine spirit of connection and truth, there is nothing wrong with being, doing, and having what you want. You are you for a reason. You took birth into this world with your talents, your abilities, your gifts, your longings and desires for a reason. And that was to make them manifest. That was to share them, to use them, to express them into this life. But we have been so sorely misled to believe otherwise through the malevolent wielding of fear and guilt. But the system that was engineered to control us and to have us believe something other than the divinity that we are is falling apart right now. At this point in history, at this point in evolution, the choosing is ours. And choosing and committing to your truth, whatever that might look like, is how you are going to reconnect, take back your power, and reclaim your sovereignty.